encouragement that you guys have given. So we have been doing this for the past two months, and this is the second event of HCS, and we have got very good feedback over the last 3-4 days, and depending on the turnout as well, very good response on the registrations. Today's topic is a typical and latest radical development in income tax law as such. The knowledge of the same is very much required for all the chartered accountants and the litigation handling people. So we are, on the verge of conversion or on the verge of transition into a new era of assessment procedures. So I request Ravi to come over and talk on that. Before that, a small brief introduction on Ravi. He's a 2007 qualified chartered accountant, CWA, and a lawyer. 15 years plus of experience, 12 years in Big Four. Litigation expertise all over 12 years. Would have handled almost around 300 cases represented before ITAT, DRP, CIT appeals, AO, and now even search and seizure proceedings as well. So the success rate as well speaks for itself. So I invite Prabina to give us a few words on HCS and the progress that we have made, and it will be taken over by Ravi for the entire technical session. Prabina, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Sir, mic.
Hello. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am glad that each and every professional seated over here took efforts to reach this afternoon and make use of session's time to move to next level professional. I welcome Mr. Ravi Bharadwaj, who came along here and to address this evening. Today's gathering involves a problem discussion coupled with solutions that practical. Many of us are not absolutely clear and perfect about faceless estimate. Some of the bigger queries and some are with small queries. We a team of 7 members putting restless efforts to make use of this platform for CF fraternity at large. On this wonderful evening, let us upgrade on each and every aspect in this concept, be and feel confident about faceless estimate and thereby serve the client fraternity in the right direction. I now request to Mr. Ravi to lead us into this program.
So, good evening everybody. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So today we thought of discussing the latest development in income tax proceedings. Mithilesh was mentioning that this is a radical development in the way the proceedings are going to happen in the future. I would disagree with him. There are severe changes which are being proposed in the faceless assignment, but certainly those are not radical. And I'm sure many of the chartered accountants here must be thinking that this is a demon which is coming in our way. Probably at the end of this session we will see whether it's a demon or it's a good thing which is happening, and which will probably have a benefit to the clients as a whole. Before we start with the technical session, my experience probably in the last 6-7 months with the faceless assessments is it is a mixed bag. Initially, the orders passed by the faceless assessment team were all nil orders. Probably some of the clients which have never seen nil orders in their lifetime have seen nil orders. That's a good thing which has happened. Probably that's the first phase. And slowly, as we move close to the time barring deadline for the assessment year 18-19, there were certain bad experiences as well, where we have submitted everything, all the details. The assessment order was passed by just mentioning the SSC did not submit any documentary evidence in support of the claim, and hence crores of additions were made in one of my cases. And unfortunately, there is no remedy for escalating these type of issues. The CBDT has set up a platform to raise an issue, especially when there were roaring inquiries were made during the course of assessment proceedings. But unfortunately, when there are unwarranted adjustments were made, especially in crores of rupees, there is no redressal mechanism as of now. Hopefully, the CBDT will look at it and the ministry will come up with some platform to look into all these issues. Coming to faceless assessments, everything is faceless. I don't know whether to call it a faceless assessment or no face assessment. Initially, I was also thinking that I should go behind the screen and probably talk, because that's the way the government wants the assessments to happen. Everything is electronic mode. Probably a year back, the e-proceedings was started in the internal database of Income Tax Department, which is called ITBA. At least in the e-proceedings era, people used to interact with the assessing officer, but all the submissions were made through the electronic mode. But there is some communication channel between the assessing officer and the SSC. At the very same time, probably I don't know how many of you are aware that there is a pilot project which was started off during the e-proceedings time, parallelly when the e-proceedings were happening. Probably 1,000 and odd cases were given to 2 units in Hyderabad on a pilot project basis, which were headed by one commissioner called Mr. Shishir Agarwal and another now DG Madam Vasundhara Sinha. That was the initial starting point for all faceless assessments. Everybody thought only COVID expedited, but I don't think so. This was always in the back of the mind of the finance ministry and of course UIDT, how to take these assessments in an electronic mode. Let us discuss probably at length what do we mean by faceless assessment, how are we going to deal with them in the future, because other than few ranges, nobody has a choice but to do the assessments under the faceless scheme. Probably this is the content what we are going to discuss. What's the scheme, what is the difference between the earlier scheme and the present scheme, how it's going to impact, what are the procedures which has to be followed, what are the powers of the revenue authorities, what are the duties of the taxpayer. All these things have been detailedly discussed in the amendments which were carried out by the CBDT. And of course there are operational issues. As we stand today, the assessments, reassessments, other than the assessments which are lying under the DGIT investigation, which are typically all search cases, all appeals related search cases will be done in a physical manner. Those are not currently with the faceless assessments. And of course the other exception is transfer pricing. The international tax and the transfer pricing, that is again another wing in the department. Those cases which fall in these two categories are now currently being done in the traditional manner, which is a physical form of hearing. Now they are not made faceless yet, but as I can see that this is going to happen. This is going to happen very soon, and I don't think it will be a surprise to me. So our Honorable Prime Minister announced on August 12th, 2020, saying that from tomorrow everything will be faceless. So it was taken as a shock to everybody, because there is no time given to anybody to think about it, to give feedback, to take public opinion, nothing. All of a sudden, this was just brought into the Income Tax Act. So the phrase which was used by the Honorable Prime Minister is transparent taxation, honoring the honest. So that was the slogan under which the faceless assessment scheme was introduced by the Honorable Prime Minister. Even the way I look at it, even earlier, our Honorable Finance Minister was giving hints that going forward everything will become faceless, and that's where they are working on it. Probably as we see the chronology of the events, we'll understand whether this was the thought process of the government right from probably few years back, or is it's a knee-jerk reaction. So the objective, of course, is seamless, painless, and faceless. Seamless, faceless, of course, it is faceless. Seamless, I'm sure whoever is using the income tax portal, now everybody is facing a lot of issues. Seamless is, as we stand today, it's a challenge. Painless, I don't know, it's again subjective. It depends upon case to case. So as I was discussing that if we look at chronology of the events, then in 2006, the e-filing of TDS returns, income tax returns of companies was made on. Return filing, I still remember people used to stand in the queue for hours together. The counters were open till 12 o'clock just to file your return of income. Making it online has certainly changed the way you file the return. In 2015, the rules were amended that the communication between the department and the SSCs should be made in an electronic mode. 16-17, again the communication, they have laid down procedures and standard how to communicate with the SSC even through the electronic mode. Now in 2017, the CBDT has stated I'm not aware how many of you know that the income tax platform, their internal system runs on a platform called ITBA. They said then everything will become e-proceedings. At that point in time, though you have to file submissions electronically, but you can still go to the assessing officer, meet him. You know who is your jurisdictional assessing officer, and the assessing officer know who is the SSC. But right now, everything is changed. So, what key to probably eliminate person-to-person contact between the SSC and the assessing officer. So, which is nothing but the faceless. February 2018, as I said, the platform of Income Tax Department ITBA has a functionality called e-process. Even with the new portal, most of the things happens under the tab e-proceedings. August 2018, earlier days, if I get a notice, say from a Bombay assessing officer, I used to challenge saying that, boss, you don't have a jurisdiction over me and I don't have to comply to the notice issued by you. Those kind of arguments used to happen probably a few years back. Now everything is changed. So 139, you will file return of income. This is the way it used to happen traditionally. Then if your case is selected for scrutiny, you will get a 143(2) notice. If you have not filed your return of income, probably they can issue a 142(1) to file the return of income. And thereafter, the case may get selected for scrutiny. There is a system within the department which is called CAS, Computer Aided Selection of Scrutiny. So under the CAS, if you are selected, then probably you will have to you will get a notice from the assessing officer. You will file some information. Based on the information filed, he may have a follow-up notice. And if you think there is some expenditure which you have claimed, some deductions which are not fully deductible, then probably he can issue a show cause notice, so that you will be given an opportunity to submit why a particular expenditure should be allowed. So this is a process, and if he is satisfied with your show cause notice response, he will give an order. If he is not satisfied with your response, probably there could be an adjustment. Thereafter, you will file an appeal if you are agreed. This is the traditional way it used to happen. The other modes of inquiries by the assessing officer, he can issue summons under 131 if the assessing officer or the tax department is in possession of a notice or some information based on which he feels that there is some income which is escaped tax. He can issue a summons under 131. He can issue also a summons under 133(6) calling for some information, probably not related to you, and if he needs some information while completing assessment of some other entity or some other person, he can also call for information under 133(6). At the very same time, recording of statements, this generally happens especially in the case of search proceedings under 132. Of course, once the assessment is complete, the assessing officer will pass an order under 143(3). 144 is a best judgment assessment. If you have not responded to the notices issued by the department, then probably they will give a show cause notice why the assessment should not be completed under 144. 144 we call it as an ex parte assessment. If section 154 talks about rectification of an order where there is a mistake apparent from record, this has been traditionally done by the assessing officer, though there is a proposal that this should also be done under faceless. As we stand today, all the 154 rectification orders are currently being handled by the assessing officer. Though the assessing officer has a very limited scope, this is one among them. Again, 147, reassessment or income escaping assessments. Now, with the amendment in the new section, there are so many 147 notices issued under the reassessment, and all of them were now sent to faceless assessments. So going forward, even the reassessment proceedings will be under the faceless scheme. As I mentioned, 153A cases, 153 assessment will happen in the case of search and seizure under 132. Those are currently being handled by the local jurisdictional assessing officers. That's how those cases were not made faceless as we stand today. So this is probably a comparison between how the procedures used to happen in the e-assessment era versus faceless assessment. As we discussed, under the e-assessment, more or less everything is the same. But under the faceless scheme, it is more or less very organized. Even if you are thinking to file an adjournment, there are reasons which you have to mention. There is a drop-down menu. You can select one of the reasons. Of course, there is another column also. If you think your reason for adjournment is not listed there, probably you can write your own. But at the most, you can file for an adjournment for 15 days at one time. The adjournment will not be granted under the faceless scheme for more than 15 days. Because you have to choose the date up to which you want the case to be adjourned. And the date cannot be more than 2 weeks. This is another important. Earlier, people used to file an adjournment letter and then forget about it. And I don't know how many of you have dealt with assessment proceedings. All the assessments generally happen at the fag end of the time barring date. This is probably a diagrammatic representation of how things are being proposed under the faceless scheme. So once your case is selected for scrutiny, the NEAC stands for National E-Assessment Center. National E-Assessment Center is the hub. That is the hub which works as an interface between the assessment units and the SSCs. So even the assessing officer will never get directly in touch with the SSCs. Everything will happen through NEAC. NEAC is primarily the National E-Assessment Center, which acts as a hub. Once your case gets selected for scrutiny, then you will get a notice under 143(2), and then you will be given a 15 days time to respond. After that, the NEAC will allot or assign these cases to assessment units, which are called AUs. Assessment units that also happen automatically. There is no manual intervention while allotting cases to assessment units. And then the case will be assigned to the assessment unit by the NEAC. So as I was mentioning that there are different units within the department. Now they are classified as assessment unit, which primarily does the assessment. So assuming there is a company in Hyderabad which is selected for scrutiny, the case can be assessed, or the assessment can be completed by somebody in Ahmedabad, or probably in Jammu and Kashmir for that matter. You never know. At least the SSC will not have any information about the assessing officer. NEAC will, as I said, NEAC is the hub which acts as an intermediary between the SSC and the assessment unit. There could be some cases where the assessment unit needs some help other than getting information from the SSC. For example, assessing units need conducting inquiry or verification by verification unit. As I said, there are assessment unit, verification unit, technical unit. These are core pillars for doing the assessment. There is another unit called review unit, which we will discuss about it. Now if the assessment unit needs any help from the verification unit or technical unit, verification unit probably in terms of recording statements, etc. Technical units help required if the assessing unit or assessing officer under the faceless scheme thinks that they need to get a valuation report of a property, then they can request the NEAC to get a verification certificate or evaluation certificate through verification unit. Sorry, technical unit. Verification unit, as I said, it is only to verify few documents and record statements and cross-examination, etc. And NEAC coordinates between all these things. The communication between the assessment unit and the verification unit or technical unit, these are internal units of the department. Even the communication between these three should happen through NEAC. So for all practical purposes, even it is faceless within the department. Some of the officers were mentioning, I don't know who is the assessing officer in the verification unit. So it's very difficult because there are so many layers. People were discussing that at some point in time this will be rolled back, or some point in time everybody will get to know who is the assessing officer. But if you closely observe all these things, it's going to get very, very difficult. It's not easy. And if the SSC do not respond to the show cause notice, then the assessment can be completed under 144 best judgment assessment. So as I was mentioning, the assessment unit will give a draft order to the National E-Assessment Center, and then this draft order will be given to a review unit. So in the previous slide, what we have discussed, that we have discussed anything other than review unit, because review unit will come into picture only when there is a draft order with the adjustments proposed to the total income declared by the SSC comes into picture. Then, so this particular review unit has been incorporated so as to ensure that there are no unwarranted adjustments. If a particular assessment unit is acting biased to a particular SSC or probably to a particular situation, because because the assessing officer in the assessment unit may not be aware who is the SSC is. So in that cases, just to ensure that there are no unwarranted adjustments happening, the draft order will be given to a review unit. Review unit, thereafter looking at the documents, looking at the adjustments proposed by the AU, decides whether they concur with the draft order or they can also suggest modification to the adjustments proposed by the assessment unit earlier. So the draft order issued by assessment unit goes to the review unit. Review unit has two options: agree with the adjustments proposed, or probably they can give some more suggestions other than the adjustments suggested by the assessment unit. If they concur, then this draft order will be sent to the assessing SSC. If they do not concur, as I said, there are two options, and then the NEAC will assign this case again to a fresh AU, other than the AU which initially has made some adjustments. This is where the SSC responds to a show cause notice. Generally, just before making an adjustment, the show cause notice is issued. If the SSC wants a personal hearing through video conference, of course there is no physical hearing anymore. Even if he needs a hearing, it has to be through video conference only. So after the issue of show cause notice, the SSC has an option to opt for VC, and that particular request will be forwarded to the CCIT or DGAT concerned for approval. That will be done by NEAC. If that approval is not granted by CCIT or DGAT, then you will not have any video conference hearing. It will be done through the regular, whatever you have submitted based on the material available on record, the assessment will be concluded. If they have given approval, you can have a video conference hearing, because there are so many people who think that the matters can be explained probably on a face-to-face or across the table in a better manner, rather than putting everything in a document and submitting it through an electronic mode. So thereafter, if there is a video conference, well and good. Even otherwise, the assessment will be concluded based on the submissions made by the SSC. So this is the typical what we discussed just now, a diagrammatic representation of once you request for a physical hearing, whether it can be approved or rejected by the CCIT or DGAT, concerned DGAT. Before we get into a little more detailed discussions on faceless assessments, other than assessments, as we stand today, currently the appeal proceedings are also being undertaking under the faceless mode. Then the next level is appeal before the ITAT. There is a proposal that those appeals should also be done under the faceless mode, but the way things happen at the tribunal are slightly complex and complicated. I'm sure there will be a day the ITAT hearings will also happen with a dynamic jurisdiction, but as we stand today, it is slightly far away. But the appeals with the commissioner appeals are also now done under the faceless scheme. The way the faceless appeals function is very, very similar to the way the assessment happens under the faceless mode. So similar to the National E-Assessment Center, there is a National Faceless Appeal Center which allots cases to appeal units, and whatever pending cases as on probably August end, the deadline was given as August 28th or August 30th, 2020, if I'm not wrong. Whatever the cases which are pending with the Commissioner of Appeals, they were transitioned or transferred to the National Faceless Appeal Center, and everything is now allocated to appeal units. After the transition, it's been a year, but personally, I have not seen much progress, at least at the appeal center, unlike faceless assessment, which were completed for assessment year 18-19. So, the existing CID appeals, wherever the cases are pending, all those documents, the submissions were uploaded electronically, they were transferred to appeal units. Probably there could be some more information which is required by appeal unit. The NFAC can get that information either from the appellant or from the assessing officer, because earlier deals with rectification of mistakes apparent from record. As I said, there are a few more changes. These are a lot of changes. These are currently not under the faceless scheme, but very soon they will become faceless, because the act which was amended to give powers to the central government so that they can get scheme or they can notify schemes to make all these provisions under the act under the faceless scheme. So 254, 260, 263, 260, 263 talks about orders which are prejudicial to the interest of revenue. If the commissioner thinks that the order passed by the assessing officer is prejudicial to the interest of revenue, he can pass an order to rectify those mistakes. Currently, that also lies with the principal commissioner. That is not taken to under the faceless scheme. 264 similarly, as we discussed, it's a revision of order. That is also not under faceless. And there are few approvals which were also now taken under the faceless scheme. For example, if you need a registration under 12A, if you are a charitable institution, you can file an application for approval under 12A so that your income is not subject to tax. And of course, a related approval is approval under 80G. Those kind of approvals are also now taken under the faceless scheme. Those approvals were earlier granted by the exemption wing of the income tax department. So these are all again procedural changes. 143 deals with your scrutiny assessment. As I said, to eliminate, these are changes made in the provisions of the Income Tax Act to eliminate interface between SSC and the assessing officer, get some economies of scale, dynamic jurisdiction, because you don't know, your case can be allotted to anybody without any manual intervention. So powers again conferred to those assessment units to assess the income or loss declared by the SSC. So this is the structural hierarchy. We have looked at the diagrammatic representation, how the faceless assessment under is structured. So you will have a national e-assessment center which acts as a hub. Any notice which is received by an SSC is issued by NEAC. And below the National E-Assessment Center, you will have REAC. These are called REACs, Regional E-Assessment Centers. These are all under the control of Principal Chief Commissioners, and up below few notices. But these notices will be sent to the SSC through NEAC. Verification units, as we discussed, verification unit, technical units, review units. These are other units other than assessment units. Assessment units can take help of verification units and technical units while doing the assessment. Once the assessment is completed, assuming the assessment unit proposes some adjustments, it will go to review unit. As I said, review unit, if it concurs with the adjustment, then probably it will go back to NEAC. NEAC will issue a draft order. If the review unit suggests any modification, then it will go to another AU, so that the person who has already looked at it will not look at it in the same way. So this is a procedure which we tried to probably put it into slides, how an assessment is conducted under the faceless scheme. First, the NESC will issue a notice. As I said, you will have to respond in 15 days. Even in the case of adjournment, it will not be more than 15 days. Then the case will be assigned to assessment unit in any RESC through automated allocation system. So as I said, there will not be any manual intervention. The case will be allotted to AU under or through automated allocation system. Then the assessment unit may request the NEAC to obtain information, conduct inquiry, seek technical assistance. So wherever required, the assessment unit can do this, but all these things will again happen through NEAC. So assessment unit can only request NEAC, they cannot directly interact with these units or the SSC. Then the NEAC will assign these requests to verification unit and technical unit after receiving the documents from whether SSC or verification unit or technical unit. That again will go back to NEAC. NEAC will send it to the assessment unit. If the SSC fails to comply, so then the NEAC will issue a 144. So the procedure by and large will remain the same. Just that the way things used to happen earlier, now they are happening in a different format. Even earlier, if the SSC do not respond, a notice under 144 was given just before making any best judgment assessment. So after that, if both the cases where the SSC responds or do not respond, the NEAC will examine the draft order based on risk management strategy and automation examination tool. Then they can finalize the assessment order or provide an opportunity if the modification is proposed. Assign again draft order to a review unit in any one RAC through automated. So the draft order before it goes to or before it finalizes and becomes a final assessment order, one more review will be done by the review unit. So once after the review unit, as I said, review unit can also make changes or concur. If the changes which are not prejudicial, then they can go ahead and issue the assessment order. If there are adjustment further proposed by the review unit, then the opportunity will be granted to the SSC, because opportunity of being heard is very important. And then NEAC will, after looking at the response submitted by the SSC, will go ahead and complete the assessment. So there are few this we have discussed what are the exceptions and what are the exceptions to the faceless scheme as it stand today. Central circle, international tax, and transfer pricing. But international tax and transfer pricing probably will become under the faceless scheme soon. That's what I think. But those are very niche areas which needs specific expertise. So people who have done transfer pricing assessments and international tax cases, they will have different set of skills. So probably that is a thought process with the CPTT, that they are looking to create a separate unit for changes to effective functioning of faceless scheme. With the prior approval of the board, they can implement those changes in all the notice, getting information, acknowledgements, verification and authenticity of the document submitted by the SSC. These are all again procedural issues. Of course, that includes, as we discussed, these are all these aspects if the principal commissioner, chief commissioner thinks that there can be improvement, they can take a prior approval of the board and go ahead and do that. So the other important aspect in the faceless scheme is that they have defined taxpayer charter which has rights of the taxpayer and duties of the assessing officer. These are important because if the assessment unit or any unit in the faceless scheme they do not follow, then the SSC has SSC can approach the principal chief commissioner there is a taxpayers charter cell under the principal chief commissioner of the relevant REAC. You can approach that. So there are few obligations or duties, I would say, casted over the department while doing the faceless assessment. Few of them or most of them are listed here. First is provide fair, courteous and reasonable treatment. So these are basic things which we generally expect whenever we probably, even during the physical hearing days, everybody would expect these days. I think the same thing carried to the faceless scheme also, because just because you are sending an email, you need not be rude. So whatever you expect during the physical hearings should continue despite it is a faceless hearing. So treat taxpayer as honest. This is important. I'm sorry, sir, but the department generally feels that the taxpayer is dishonest, so that they try to make adjustments. Of course, I should not take it. There are officers who are absolutely on point, without any biasness. They are totally unbiased. They look at the issue as an issue, but at the very same time, as the coin has two sides, you will have officers who may feel that the SSC is not upfront and honest. Provide mechanism for appeal and review. Of course, I would say the faceless scheme provides a better mechanism for review, because earlier under 143(3), when the physical hearing used to happen, the assessing officer is the final adjudicating authority. There is no need for him to consult anybody before passing the order. But whereas in the faceless scheme, if you propose any adjustment to the total income of the SSC, it goes to the review unit. Then the review unit, based on the material submitted, reviews, and then it again goes back to NEAC. So the way I look at it, there are two layers now. Rather than only one person looking at your case, now there are two people looking at your case. Taxpayer. These are all taxpayers' duties. So now we have looked at what the taxpayer expects from the assessing officer. At the very same time, there are some duties which were casted upon the taxpayer also. Be honest and compliant. So from a compliance standpoint, you should be on time, and at the very same time, whatever the information requested by the assessing officer, you should be submitting within the due date. Be informed. So as the famous saying goes, ignorance of law is not an excuse. So you should be knowing what compliances you have to do, and accordingly you have to do within timeline. Keep accurate records which are required to be furnished if it is being asked by the department. Personal hearing, we have discussed. It is a discretion of the principal chief commissioner or the DGIT or the concerned DGIT. If they approves it, then you will get a video conference hearing. Penalty. So what will happen if I do not comply to the notices issued under the faceless scheme? There are instances when the notice goes to the previous email probably which is there 2-3 years back. Hopefully all these glitches will be sorted out, And under the new portal, I mentioned it, under the new portal, any submission made by the SSC needs digital signature or e-verification. And this is a very important thing. 7 days before the time barring due date, the electronic again it will go to your email. You will not have any physical evidence. So keep checking your emails. Make sure that the right email ID is updated in the profile so that you will not miss any deadline. In sometimes the appeal unit can ask information from the assessing officer or any AC also for that matter. Again, as we discussed, service of notice will be served only by the NFAC. Again here, same as the assessment process. Appeal unit cannot issue a notice to the SSC. It will again route it through NFAC. And likewise, the response will also be routed through NFAC. NFAC again acts as a hub in the whole process, as an interface. And so I'm sure
for giving us valuable insights on faceless assessments. Now, after this session, I'm pretty sure that we all can face any type of faceless assessment. So that's the insight we have got. And further, you can go through this material. Mithilation and his team took a lot of effort to make this very, very useful and relevant. So please carry this material with you and you can refer this for further usage. Now I would like to introduce our much awaited panel discussion. So we have very esteemed guests who are experts and highly experienced in this field. So I would like to start with Sri K.C. Devadas Garu. I would like to invite him onto the dais. So K.C. Devadas Garu is a chartered accountant with over 40 years of experience and is a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountancy. And entire 40 years he has experience in direct tax, and he has presented a lot of papers on direct tax in multiple conferences including BCAS. And he has authored a monograph called Tax Deducted at Source. I would recommend everybody to go through that. And apart from that, he was also a member of the Southern India Regional Council, SARC, and he was a member of the Taxation Committee of SARC during 83 and 84. He was also the co-opted member of Taxation Committee for the 1988 to 1989. And additionally, Commissioner of Regional Faceless Assessment Center. I have Mr. Kiran Katagar. So all the youngsters, you might be excited about his profile. So he's currently the CFO of Associated Broadcasting Co. Private Limited. Now I'll make it easier for you. This is popularly known as TV9. The TV9 group, the actual name is Associated Broadcasting Private Limited. So he was born and brought up in Vijayawada. He finished his graduation from Nagarjuna University and completed his articles from the esteemed Ramayan Co. Vijayawada once again. And before joining Associated Broadcasting Company, he worked with major brands like G News, G Entertainment, and is currently taking care of the entertainment division of My Home Group, which is now together with TV9. And most importantly, the OTT platform AHA is also part of the group which he manages. He cleared in 1990 and he served in various capacities in...
Sir, I'll be monitoring the session, but before we move on to the questions and panel questions, I would like to take a few minutes for the experience that each of you had, both from the industry and from the practice. We'll start with Devadas sir, maybe. So if at all, sir can throw some light, and then we can, have the discussion taken forward.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Some of the thoughts. I am not going to portray what I am going to say. I would like to hear more from you about all these things. What are your... And what, please do not hesitate to ask any questions, because this is the best opportunity, and it's not that we are right. Let me also tell you, sometimes from the questions I learn, from my experience I can tell you, I have whatever little I know, I have heard it from my client. Nowadays clients are much more intelligent than us. When you throw an issue, he gives us more counter questions. So with that counter questions, the whole issues develop. So therefore, this, as far as my personal view is concerned, I would like to hear much more from you so that I will know what exactly you need and what exactly we can take the things forward.
So your views on the faceless scheme are, sir?
Now, as far as my views on the faceless scheme is concerned, I request my learned friend to my left not to hear whatever I say. So, as far as this faceless is concerned, let me give you a short introduction. The whole object is very good. No connection, no interaction, and whatnot. I don't know how far. Now there's already a thinking on the board. The board says in high assessment cases, high income cases, we should go back to physical. Now if you are going to start with that high income going to physical, why not the other borders, maybe the other entities will also push through. Now faceless is a good concept. If you see the provisions, section 144, it gives you an insight into the whole thing. But the implementation part is what is very important. Now let me give you a few examples. Return of income is filed, I go into faceless. Now once I file a return of income, within 6 months from the end of the financial year, you are supposed to serve a notice under 143.2. If no notice is served under 143.2, the whole assessment gets vitiated. Now the thought process which I experienced, not necessarily true in respect of all cases, in one or two cases, 29th of September 2020, I get a notice under 143.2. Please give details of all the items shown in the profit and loss account. Now what is in the profit and loss account? There are numerous items. What am I supposed to give? So the notice itself has been a subject matter of challenge. A notice under 143.2 is not just a formality. You are supposed to have said there are certain points in respect of the return of income which I have filed, over which I would like to have further information. So the further information should be elucidated. Maybe this is in the primary stage, things will definitely improve. I am not for a moment being critical of the issues. But what all I am trying to say is, these are some of the basic issues which you have to give. If you ask me to give all the items in the P&L, where do I go? I start from my purchases, opening stock, and right up to the ladder. So therefore, we wrote back saying, this is not what is the intention of the whole scheme. Please specify what are the items so that we will know how should we get into the whole thing. Then the COVID struck. So once the COVID struck, there was a lot of lull, and then we have afterwards recently received a big notice giving all to that, subject to my objection that the initial notice itself is not valid. That is one aspect which I wanted to highlight in this. Now as far as this NFAC's proceedings are concerned, let me tell you, your communication skills are the most important in this. Whatever it may be, your communication skills in respect of, see, as a chartered accountant, you have filed the return of income, you know what are the things that is going to be asked. Now take section 68, this is the favorite topic of NFAC. 1668, cash credits. So all this, the three principles are, the identity should be known, the genuineness of the transaction, and whether all the transactions are correct. Subject to these three tests, section 68 is bond level. Then what happened? From assessment 1/4/2013, there was an amendment to section 68, which says if it was a company, if there is any introduction of share capital or share application money or share premium, there was a proviso added. The proviso stated, in respect of a company, the onus of proving that amount, an explanation should be given by the company, and the onus of proving that amount will always lie on this. But this applied to only three categories: share capital, share application money, share premium. Now that is being adopted for all the cases. So therefore, a simpliciter of unsecured loans, the proviso will not apply. My job is to prove the identity. He's got a PAN card, then he's got a Aadhaar card, he's assessed to tax, and he has filed the tax returns, he has borrowed money from X. Now it's not a crime to borrow, the crime will only be to repay. Now when the amounts are coming in, I have put all the his assessed to tax, copy of his income tax return, copy of his final accounts, all that in anticipation we have filed or we have kept. Now the NEC says, your income is hardly 20 lakhs, why should you borrow? Now that was the question that I got. So therefore, whether I have got 10 lakhs income or 10 crores income, nobody can question why I have borrowed. Only your object is to see whether the borrowals are in accordance with the provisions of the Act. You have to prove the genuineness. In other words, in short, the suspicion alone cannot be a modus operandi for making an assessment. So therefore the facts have to be seen. If all the facts have been given, I have already given the identity, I have already given the genuineness of the transaction, the identity is proved, the sources are proved, and the person from whom I borrowed has given a detailed confirmation letter saying that he is assessed to income tax. He has gone one step further. Now, as it is, I have borrowed money from X. How can I go and ask him, give me your bank account, give me your balance sheet, give me your profit and loss account? He will definitely say, these are all confidential information, I will not give. So what is my modus operandi now? Now I have to write back to the NFAC to say, look, this is the position, I have got this, kindly use your powers. The arms of the department are too long, they can reach any person anywhere. So therefore, please contact that gentleman and kindly gather the particulars whether what he has stated is correct or not. That's the matter where I make an intention. But then the order comes, this is not sufficient, and then you see, once you throw the ball in the court of the department to make the inquiry, my learned friend will definitely agree with me because he has done all this, immediately they make an inquiry with that person. The only problem comes when you don't make the inquiry. When I've said you make an inquiry and you don't make the inquiry, then the onus on me is discharged. Where is the question of making any addition? So these are some of the things in case of this faceless assessment. Now let me give you another example. I do not know how much time I have.
Go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
Take the other issue now. File a return of income. Now, right or wrong, the assessee does not, I filed the return sometime in October. First notice issued in September. 15 days before the time barring assessment, 143.2 is served from this thing faceless. Then they ask us to give everything in a matter of weeks' time. Now, what am I to say? Now, when I write back saying, see, the return was filed, there was a lull for almost a year, so I kindly give me some more time. Now, 31st December is the last date. Now, I have been asked to show cause by 23rd of December. I gave all the information because what happens is in this faceless, the client is more concerned. He said, sir, whatever it may be the inconvenience, you please reply. I don't want to have any problems. Now, the client is the king. I am dependent on the client. Client is not dependent on me. So, therefore, what he says is, we file the reply. 23rd December, I file the reply. 25th, the assessment order comes. Now, what my cry is, I am not at all worried about what is happening. Before you make any assessment, you must give me a show cause notice. That is the foundation of principles of natural justice. So, if you are not going to give me a show cause notice of what is happening, now let me tell you, no court is going to strike it down as totally void and all that. They will only say, writ admitted, notice to parties, again they will come back and say, give one more opportunity. So this is all only temporary relief which we are trying to obtain from the courts. It's not going to be permanent because no court is going to say the whole assessment is null and void, although they can say it, but they wouldn't like to say it. So therefore what happens is, under these circumstances, 25th was the assessment order. So what we did was, on 23rd itself, when we gave the reply, what all I stated was, look, this is the short notice, I have done my best. Kindly as a last chance, give me for another 4 days time. And please give me an opportunity in case of any difference between my submissions and your views on the subject. Now this is a very, very important line you should add in all your correspondence.
they'll give you a virtual hearing. The virtual hearing came at 5:30 p.m. Nowadays, what has happened because of this faceless, you have to be at the computer at all times. You don't know when the notice will come, when it will come. Sometimes it says midnight, almost midnight, 11 o'clock, 59 minutes, the notice is issued. So, we have to be very careful to see that all the notices in respect of the portal given by you. Then reply we gave that it is like this, you have given us hardly any time. When we replied you took 10 days time, you please give us some more time. Then what happened was, immediately after the assessment is over, the portal is closed. Now my cry is, when the assessment gets time barred on 31st, you are supposed to keep the portal open till 30th of December. I may revise my submissions. That is what one of the notifications of 20 says. In fact, the Telangana High Court has upheld that plea, saying that you must keep the portal open till the last day. I may come, some more case laws may come, some more issues may come up. I would like to revise my proceedings. Under such circumstances, what would be the position? Now, like many others, I have not suggested filing of a writ because the clients don't know what a writ is. They will say, what happens, I do not know. I have come to you. If I had known all this, why I would come to you? Now, that is his reason. So, therefore, I have not advised filing of a writ because it's only a temporary thing. So, we have now filed an appeal against that order to CIT appeals, saying that this is the position, this is what happened, and therefore, this is the issue. Now, we will have to see what is the outcome out. Somebody was mentioning about this email ID. Different email IDs or one email ID. Let me tell you, in spite of all my experience, I am not all that computer savvy. But be that as it may, when you are giving your email ID, now what does your section say, rules say? Rule 27 says, you have to give, as far as the service of notice is concerned, certain things. But then in the return of income, whatever email ID you have given, or at the time of giving your PAN card, whatever email ID you have given at that time, whenever there is a change of address, please change your PAN card. Otherwise, your portal will be showing something else. It will go to that address which is registered. And then you cannot come back and say, I am not aware of this notice. Whenever there is a change of address, PAN card and Aadhaar card must be changed immediately. Otherwise, the notices will go haywire here and there. Now, somebody was mentioning, so some email ID it was given. To that email ID, the notices were not sent. In the meantime, the assessee said, henceforth, please send all my email IDs to this current address. The previous email IDs we do not know, so therefore kindly give it. So it was not served on that email ID. The subsequent year returned email ID can also be taken into account in accordance with the notification and the rules. So it was taken in that, the assessee did not notice it. So there was a delay, he did not communicate, ex parte assessment, appeal also there was a delay in filing the appeal. So the question now arises in the appeal stage, condonation of delay. I was not aware. This is the first year of faceless assessment. So kindly condone the case and hear the case on merits. Now what happens is sometimes in the faceless assessment for condonation of delay, they are not going into the merits. They are only stopping short of, I refuse to condone the delay of so many days in filing the appeal. Now one NFAC appeal center says, you have filed the appeal belatedly, so I will not admit it. Fortunately for me, there is no discussion on merits. Although I have raised the grounds on merits. Whenever you are filing an appeal with a condonation of delay, please explain the reasons for the delay and also have a discussion on merits. Now in that particular case, what happened, this man did not do. It was an ex parte assessment. All the items, major items were added. Excise duty, customs duty, all were added. At least statutory liability should not be added. They could have consulted the counterpart, the excise department or customs, whether it is paid. Without paying customs duty, my goods won't come. So under such circumstances, what happens? Now these are all issues which are pending, because I am not saying this is because of faceless. Even otherwise this could have come. I wouldn't know. In the normal circumstances also the officers could have done it. But in a faceless we expected more of the issues. Another thing, you should be thorough with the law. Communication skills, thorough with the law. Read the Act, five sections per day you read. Saturday, Sunday you take off. Monday, Friday I read 5 sections, not more than 5. The more you read the section, the more you get an insight into the whole issue, more thought process comes, more issues will come up. If some of you feel 5 is more, read only 3 sections. Doesn't matter. Saturday, Sunday, I don't want you to take. Sunday should be a family day. I don't want you to get involved in any of the subjects itself. So therefore, these are some of the basic issues which are commonly, not only, I am only having a litigation practice in the tribunal presently. Whatever comes, I have just gathered from the people who are involved into this. So what was the sort of reply? I am not worried about the city-based people. I am worried more about chartered accountants and traders in Kakinada, Rajamandri, Vizianagaram, all those places where they really do not know what the whole position is. Such people are to be helped out. Fortunately, we have a perfect person now in Visakhapatnam who is able to take care of these things. He's slowly and educated. Otherwise, what the traders would know. You can't expect a trader to sit before the computer or his accountant to sit before the computer and go on seeing your emails. At least to certain towns with a population of so-and-so, this scheme should not have been made applicable. But unfortunately, the people at the helm of affairs perhaps wisely thought it so. And I would not like to comment on those particular issues. 115 BBE is a favorite of the national shame of the Faceless. You add under 68, put it under 68%, as a tax rate at 68%, and add the whole thing. Now the SSC pleads. Now another favorite thing is between 8th December 2016 to 31st December 2016 was the demonetization period. In those demonetization period, there were a lot of cash deposits. Now the SSC says all these cash deposits has come out of my sales. Now the department says you did not make this much of sales, whatever reasons. I am not for a moment saying the department is wrong. They are right in their own way. So the question of adding does not arise. Now if you are going to add my sales as cash credit, what happens to those sales? So I have deduct my sales from that so that the additions get offset at least up to assessment year 17-18. After 17-18, you can't even claim a loss against the other income. But what I'm trying to say is, if you are doubting my sales, give full reasons why the sales are doubted. Now one question is, you don't have the names and addresses. In cash sales, we are not supposed to give the name and addresses at all. Because if it's a credit sales, I need the name and address because I have to recover the amount from him. In the case of a cash sale, why do I need his address? So in some of the businesses, if the cash sales receipts are all there, then make a comparison. What was it in the previous years? What was it in this year? He is not in a position to say anything specifically. Under such circumstances, the whole issue boils down whether the addition was justified. Now these are all in the teething trouble stages. We have to see how far it goes. But our client will not understand all these things. He says, it's not my baby, sir. It's yours. You have to give me the order. That is how I have been dependent on you. Now these are some of the thoughts which was passing in my mind. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, they are not necessarily correct, but thought process is passing in my mind which I just explained to you.
Thank you so much, sir.
The esteemed members on the stage and also to my fellow professionals who have taken out their valuable time to grace this session. I would thank this Hyderabad Chartered Accountants Society for inviting me to this session on Faceless scheme and appreciate their efforts for conducting this kind of relevant and insightful sessions. I have been seeing the CA societies and associations in metros and states across India that have been formed and actively run over years. So in this regard, at the outset, I congratulate the core committee of the HCAS for stepping forward and pulling the members from the fraternity and starting the Hyderabad Chartered Accountants Society. I am sure that with the support of the members from the practice, industry, advocacy, revenue department, HCAS will progress forward successfully and become the strong knowledge accommodation bank within a short span of time. Needless to say, this kind of forums will be helpful to the people in the industry also to voice over their concerns and hardships to the revenue department or any other regulators. So I am not going to say much of on the Faceless scheme because I will also would like to learn and understand along with you from the learned people on the stage. But I would like to mention one thing. The Government of India has embarked this on journey of adoption, technology and digitization on the governance process. All these measures of the government radically reimagine the existing processes by leveraging the technology for a greater transparency, efficiency, and accountability. All these measures of the government can meet their intended objective only with the active cooperation of the stakeholders involved. But many of the stakeholders, like especially in the industry or end user, who are the SSEs, are not much I think, advanced, technologically sound. So they will also have to depend on some people in between. And I would so generally I heard and I asked many people that why actually the manual also is not run. So only suddenly one entire thing at a time is faceless scheme is implemented. So the government of India also can relocate into that. Whether is there any possibility of making the both parallelly, whether manual and as well as faceless scheme. So we request the government to take the consideration of the entire host of issues involved in this transition process and provide an option to the taxpayers to choose between the old and new schemes. So and also we also request whether to explore the possibility of introducing an interface that allows the users to connect and interact with the software developers directly for the faster resolution to bring the better efficiencies, so that they will also understand, the developers also, and the person who users also will understand what is actually technological things are needed. So thank you everyone. I look forward for having engaging the fruitful session today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, sir, most of the questions are shooted to Kiran, sir. So,
Probably I think before we get on to the question and answer session,
yeah,
I think let us hear the other side of the story, because I'm sure department is also struggling with so many issues, and I'm sure there's a thought process which is evolving how to resolve these issues. I'm sure whatever the issues raised by Devdas sir is nothing new to the department, and let us hear the thought process from the department, how best they want to take it forward and resolve these issues sooner than later.
Thank you, Raviji. So, respected dignitaries on the dais and dear friends, good evening to all. And I could see the heartache of Devdas sir. Yes, it is my duty also to address your heartache. So, see, the question is, when a finely running system is derailed or you want to implement something new, the burning question is why? The existing process of assessment and judicial forums, appellate forums, everything is running fine, but why? So I'll just give you a brief background about that. So I don't know whether many of you knew that C&AG, Control and Auditor General, in its report in 2018, they have specified and tabled before Parliament that there is too much of interface between taxpayers and tax officers. So once an authority like C&AG tables it before Parliament, then there will be discussion on that. Am I right? So they have said that the traditional scrutiny, of course it is true, their observations were true, that traditional scrutiny system has failed because there is so many mistakes in assessments made and there are so many rectifications, so much of revenue loss because of mistakes. So then there has been a discussion among the government circles and also parliamentarians and various forums. Then I don't know, because rightly the CFO sir has said there should be an option. There was a pilot project in 2019 when it was made optional, the faceless assessment. So in 2020 only it was made compulsory for everybody. So they have done a trial run. It's a pilot project based on whoever wants to opt. See, the major grievance, if you see any Twitter handle today, they will be abusing any government authority, specifically income tax authority, if you are a CA. Am I right or wrong? So most of you must have abused income tax portal also recently. It's fine, it's quite natural. And like he has said, sir, all these issues were there before also. Don't you think that additions under 68, I have been party to your tribunal hearings when you are arguing about not giving opportunities to assessee before passing order. All these issues are there, but now the issues are technology issues. Most of us are not ready for this technology, and the way it is implemented is also a shock to us, because we are also not well equipped with this kind of technology. Like, I joined in 2004, so I have also traditionally followed all these personal hearing, and in fact I have no hesitation to say much of my learning has come from the other side. I used to really learn when I was initially an assistant commissioner or deputy commissioner from the other side. Even today, you can ask Ravi or you can ask Devida sir, that many of our office, not only me, we learn from the other side, because see, if you have seen any income tax return, there are around 345 businesses which are tabulated there. It is not possible for an officer sitting to know all the 345 types of businesses, and that's why much of learning used to come from the other side, which is now we are at a disadvantage that we are not getting that learning. That is one disadvantage what we experience. But see, any scheme of government is supposed to be for welfare of citizens. So any scheme regarding taxation is supposed to be for the welfare of taxpayers. There have been complaints to the present government that the tax officers are arbitrary. They are coming up with retrospective amendments. Now only the finality has reached on that. And see, many cases, like in his own experience, he has submitted details, nothing is considered, addition is made. That was there before Faceless also, after Faceless also. Things have not changed, but the whole purpose is that in a Faceless setup, what is visualized is, it will be a team-based approach. Earlier it was single officer. If I don't like him, I will just pass an order. Whatever he may submit, I will not consider. But that discretion or that unwarranted discretion of an officer is removed now. So it is definitely advantageous to the taxpayer. So from assessee's point of view, from your point of view also, as a tax practitioner, you do a lot of effort and make a lot of presentation, and if the other fellow doesn't consider, it will be frustrating. So that is why in this scheme they have visualized all these aspects and they made it a team based. Earlier the assessing officer used to pass an order, they never used to come for any approval. Unless we call for a file and give directions, they won't come. So now it is mandatory even to issue a notice also. It is mandatory to take approval of the additional commissioner. So that way many things are filtered. I will share my personal experiences later at the question answer session. But now you might have seen in the initial questionnaires that like I was posted in September and we were asked, I was given 2 charges and my officers were sitting in 7 different stations. I have 12 officers under me. They are sitting in 7 different stations. Some of them have not even seen me till date. They are working under me. So, and see, I have an officer in Kadapa. He got a public sector company of Madhya Pradesh and Bhopal. What he will do in that company? Because he has never seen a company balance sheet sitting in Kadapa throughout his life. I'm just giving you one example. Likewise, somebody in Allahabad has got a Google case. That fellow must have never opened Google also on a computer and he has to access Google. This is the reality. So these are the issues which we have also faced. All of a sudden it is thrust upon us. But the intention is that all the past litigation, all the past mistakes done from the revenue side should not be committed henceforth. That is why there is a team based. Now you have an assessment unit where the approval of range head needs to be there. Then suppose if we need to examine, then the focus is on quality of the assessment to be made, including starting from questionnaire. Then the verification units are there. The verification duty is that they will verify wherever there is physical examination is required, or they have to verify from other sources like 133.6 powers which assessing officer was doing. Now we can take assistance of verification unit. So basically they will do the field job wherever it is required, but predominantly they are supposed to do faceless. Then we have technical units. Like he was saying that whether transfer pricing. So now any reference to be made to TPO, we cannot make to a TPO. It has to go to technical unit. They in turn will send to a transfer pricing officer. And now what we have in our whole scheme of things, what it is visualized is that technical unit will have specialized people. In fact, the government has notified that they are going to hire CS and lawyers into technical unit, though it will be headed by us. But you people can be in technical unit, so cases may come to you. They will be hired on contract basis. So you have to analyze the legal issues. Suppose there are specific jurisdictional tribunal issues, like Hyderabad bench has followed certain things, and that is law of land as far as assessments are concerned. So there will be a technical unit sitting in Chennai as on today, but in future there may be in Hyderabad. So they will analyze all the decisions of the Hyderabad on the issue specific. They will give input to those officers who are passing Hyderabad cases that okay, this is the jurisdictional high court stand on this issue and this is the tribunal stand on this issue. So that is how then lot of litigation is gone. Like recently I have seen a case that one Supreme Court order came, he must be knowing that in one sugar cooperative cases on minimum support price, 400 associates are there in one Supreme Court decision. So, and these cases are distributed across the India. Now, how to have a common stand? That is where technical unit comes into picture. So, these are all visualized, but problem is it cannot happen overnight. This has to take its own course. Like our system should be ready. We have income tax business application that should be ready. There should be seamless integration among all the units, assessment, verification and technical. So the whole objective is that the taxpayer will not be asked anything as far as possible. The objective of faceless assessment scheme is that we will have entire data through real-time basis. We will collect information from various agencies, including our sister CBIC, and also from banks, from SROs. We have to collate. There should be a data analytics center. There is a data analytics center with us. Our Insight portal, if anybody has heard it. So we access all the information about the taxpayer on Insight portal. The ultimate objective is that we have to collate information and ask assessee what is not available with us. Once you give the information, then we will frame a show cause notice and send it to you. The process definitely has to take time, because it took me 7 minutes to say all the process. So imagine if it has to be implemented, it will take probably a couple of years time. There are glitches, of course, yes. So that's why we were discussing that for AY 1920 there are very few cases selected because system was not ready. Suppose if those cases were selected and questionnaires are bombarded, it will be disaster again, because AY 1819 was a disaster which we have dealt last cycle and dealing now. So that's why it must have been a decision, informed decision on CBDT that not to select any cases or bare minimum cases for AY 19. So 2020 anyway the system is ready, and there has to be constant improvement. So they have rolled out so many notices. If you have seen show cause 143.2, like what Devdas sir has mentioned, there is difference for AY 1819 and AY 2021. Sir, have you seen any 143 of 2021? Yes, I will tell you the difference, because see, when our cases are picked up based on CAS, you all know computer aided scrutiny selection. There are more than 306 CAS reasons to pick up a case. How do we pick up the case? From the income tax return filed. So suppose there is a mismatch between your form 26A, which is one of the panel question. So that's the first question. So if you permit, I will talk it out. So the question is that we analyze, the system analyze, software analyzes your income tax return and form 26. Simple logic I will tell you. Form 26AS shows 100 crore return income based on the TDS collected, deducted. Your return shows 80 crore. What happened to 20 crore? Obvious question. So unless the taxpayer tells that, the department will not be in a position to know. So that is why when a questionnaire is given, you reconcile between your returned income and 26AS. So you may feel that why this stupid question of asking reconciliation of 26AS. This is the issue. Your form 26AS 100 crores, it shows 100 crores, but your return shows 80 crores revenue as per your P&L. What happened? The major reason is that, see, TDS must have been deducted on mobilization advance. I'm just giving you one example, which is not your revenue for the current year. Similarly, there are many aspects which is you don't recognize as revenue under ICDS, the latest one, but still TDS is deducted. That is mismatch. But how the department is supposed to know that? It doesn't know. So that is why. Yeah.
That is still fine, sir. But I have seen 143 notices where the cash reason is claim of refund. How can that be a reason to select for scrutiny?
I'll tell you.
I can understand if it's a huge, when compared to my turnover, if I am claiming a huge refund, still fine. But it is not mentioned about the quantity of refund, claim of refund. And if we read the notice subsequently, then they say that this is the reason for the scrutiny selection. You please submit your response on the reason selected for scrutiny. So claim of refund, what is that I am supposed to submit in response to that reason?
I totally agree. The reason, the reason is because every year there is a cash committee. They will decide that, okay, this year, prima facie, see, when we say take 6 crore income tax returns, then our system segregates that, okay, this many refund cases, this many 8A claims, this many 10A claims. So we pick up a sample of cases based on high risk parameters. So in some years, you might not have seen that there are cash reasons that in last 5 years there is no scrutiny, so scrutinize it. that is the reason. It is nothing to be surprised about that, because they think that yes, some return is going unscrutinized for quite a long time is scrutinized. So claim of refund is a thing that there is a parameter which says that for his expenditure and for his income return, there should not be a refund. Mostly that will be because advance tax is paid more. So when there is a more TDS deducted and you are claiming refund, you won't get a scrutiny notice on that. Then when you pay more advance tax and claim refund, that is the point why that is it. Because the question is that then why did you pay advance tax?
Probably my case is not payment of advance tax. My case is because of TDS.
TDS, okay.
The hospital sector, most of them are running into losses, but when the insurance company is paying them, they'll deduct 10%, unless they have a 197 certificate. But in those cases, I am bound to have, and moreover, if I am running into losses and I have carry forward losses, department will certainly have data for the last year. And assuming that I am setting off those losses in the current year, I am bound to get the refund of whatever TDS deducted from those insurance companies when they are making payment to the hospital.
Yes.
But some of these reasons, as you said, the way I look at it, probably you said there are 362 reasons for cash selection. When they are adding, they should be deleting also, so that probably things will get more streamlined.
See, that is why earlier there is no feedback mechanism, but in under FAS, they have introduced at every, when we complete an assessment, the FAO, Faceless Assessing Officer, has to give feedback form, whether the cash reasons have been helpful, whether they are relevant for the assessee's case. There was no feedback mechanism earlier, so whatever the cash committee sitting in Delhi, they decided it used to happen. But now with this feedback of the cash reasons based on the experience of the assessing officer, it will, they'll definitely improve that. See, more, and it may not be out of place to say that you may not see scrutiny cases in future. Because see, under the new setup or new regime, what we are trying to do is to do real-time verification. Using data real time and driving the assessee or taxpayer to tax compliance. And the present government, what they believe is they want voluntary compliance. They don't want a stick approach which was earlier. So they may do away scrutiny also. And I don't think that is not a reality. It can be a reality. So what we are foreseeing is that your real-time data will be verified by verification units. Like you will get an SMS. Suppose there is a TDS on property. You will get an SMS saying that some of your clients or many of you must have experienced that so much TDS deducted, please pay your advance tax and file your return. That is, we are actually, it is e-campaign that we are watching you.
Yeah, it's a portal. You will also get a notice from the compliance portal as well.
Even SMS you are getting.
Yeah, true.
So,
If we don't get the name, we don't know the text, they'll say you have to verify the bank.
stamp they will not give in SMS full. They will only give your first 3 characters.
Last two.
So that way, we are department wants to go to the next level of voluntary compliance. And see, as on date, there are more than 2 lakh crore pieces of information under SFT. Now, our primary focus is not to go back and scrutinize old cases, 2-year back cases, 3-year back. The focus is that we need advanced tax today, so we have to have real-time database and real-time verification portal, so that where you will verify, yes, suppose you get a SMS, next you will go to your e-filing portal and compliance management, yes, I have done this transaction, and the portal is closed, there it is closed. Then you pay advance tax or you claim 54, claim whatever it is. So that is how the future system is going to be. So these, yes, at present there are glitches because the legacy, to change the legacy there has to be certain time given to the department, and time also should be adjusted by the tax practitioners and taxpayers. But in future, I am sure that this problem will not be there. And if I may have to address anything else.
Can I just
Yes, please.
That was how Mr. Kiran Katta works. If only I had officers like him in the faceless scheme, I have nothing to worry. But how many of them are so pragmatic to know what the issues are? We have no grievance against the scheme. We are only saying believe us to a certain extent. If you come 2 steps forward, we will come 4 steps. But why this suspicion? I don't know where this, my return itself will go. It may go to Bihar, as he said, anywhere in the country. So I wouldn't know at what point of time where the issues are. So therefore, if all officers are to an extent coping up with the issues involved, there is nothing to worry. But the way we are getting orders so far, as he said, things will come bound to rectify, it will definitely rectify. Another question which Ravi posed was your claim for refund. Now this refund claim may be for so many reasons. One, I don't want to be charged with 215 interest or 234 ABC interest, so I pay much in advance. So sometimes it happens like that, so we have to give an explanation. Now they wouldn't know why it is paid for, so we gave an explanation in order to not to get involved in all these issues. And every year these additions have been made in the past, so to cover the tax cushion, we claim the refund and claim the expenditure also. That results in a refund sometimes. So it is not as if that every refund, it has to be definitely scrutinized, because why are you claiming? So that is why I shouldn't be saying this, but let me say it. What the assessees do, some of them, sir, don't claim a refund. My case will be taken for scrutiny. You cushion it with some more income and I will show it as outstanding or something. Now that is also happens. I don't want to claim the refund having paid the taxes. Why? Previously, I am not saying because of the faceless scheme. They are fearing that because I have given a refund, there will be a lot of questions, I will be put to so many things. The cost of paying the tax on the refund is much more better than facing this music of getting this refunds, scrutiny. I am not for a moment disagreeing with what my learned friend has said. Sir, let me also tell you, I totally agree with you. In some aspects, if I have not been able to agree, it is only with profound respects for your views I have respectfully differed, not otherwise. Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. So we'll move on to the questions. Before we move on to the questions, HCS has done a survey from 2,000 people around, including professionals and all. Mostly the results were towards the existing scheme and not towards what we are currently moving towards. But the point that we are trying to say is, whenever we asked a preferred medium of going forward for the assessment or assessment proceedings, almost 69% of the people have voted for they should go back to the old regime, and physical proceedings by the jurisdictional tax officers has to take place. And in terms of the parallelly being implemented also, there was around 84% polling in terms of it should be run parallelly, and an option has to be given to the assessee to pick up whether it has to be done on faceless mode or in terms of a physical hearing, and whether a mandatory opportunity of being heard has to be given or not. 58% to 60% people have opted for that a mandatory opportunity of being heard was there. Sir, there were few questions in this particular survey question when people have asked. They started asking that, why a chief commissioner or a DG has to approve this particular, video conference mechanism. So when the draft order is being issued or a show cause notice is being issued, and when assessee opts for that video conferencing mode, the question was, why is that the CC or DG has to get involved to give that permission for the video conference? Why can't it be made a mandatory or a voluntary opportunity to the assessee?
Assuming that if 1.5 lakh people want a video conferencing, but just because it is a right of every taxpayer and tax practitioner to get opportunity of being heard. That is what principles of natural justice is about. And officer may not give, the AO feels that why should I give? So it's not that only one-sided. Approval is that suppose I don't want to give, but my CC may say that no, you should give. Suppose assessee has no reason, that almost whatever information is available, it is sufficient for them to pass an order, or the passing order doesn't mean there should be an addition or there is any tax demand raised. The return can be accepted, but still assessee may want to take a personal hearing. So those cases are not required. So because of such scenario, and this is a nascent stage, they fixed it at CC level. Tomorrow it will be fixed at a range head level, additional commissioner level. He will decide once there is more bandwidth available for video conferencing and the technology upgrades so much that it can be done with ease. I don't know if anybody have you availed the VC facility here till now here, you must have. So have you seen the officer from the other side?
Other side we just came. What I will further say, you have already replied, so the opportunity is closed.
That's because that is why there is CC, no?
I have no idea whether approval was taken or not.
No approval.
Everybody said, I take a video, give me an opportunity. So he came on with this thing, he spoke, he said, anything further you have to say, you have already spoken and you have already written, and this is it.
In many cases, the taxpayers couldn't even see the tax office.
No, in this case I thought that I didn't know from where he was.
So bandwidth is one reason, but necessity of conducting, VC is a rare opportunity to be utilized under faceless scheme, because entire faceless scheme is supposed to be that everything should be data driven. So the personal interface should be restrained there, and so that's why Chief Commissioner's approval, but sooner or later it will come down to Additional Commissioner level, who is approving the assessments. So to start with, it is fixed there. And suppose if 80% of people want it should go back to the jurisdiction assessing officers, these are taxpayers or tax practitioners?
Both.
50-50. No,
They are saying it has to be made optional, sir. Most of them.
Optional, yeah.
It's after everybody.
Everybody log. See,
Then the whole virtual thing collapses.
see, here I would like to say that, government brings a policy for benefit of citizens who are taxpayers. After the policy being implemented, if the majority of the citizens or taxpayers feel that it is draconian or it is causing a lot of inconvenience to them, government can always roll it back. Anything is for welfare of citizens only, right? So if that is a feeling of 80% of the country's population among taxpayers, I don't think it is a difficult job for government to roll it back, unless government feels that it is totally not required.
In some cases it may be mandatory, because Suppose I have to cross-examine somebody. How will I do it in a video? Your technical expert committee or whatever. I would like to cross-examine and say, now there are so many issues on this accommodation entries. Everybody says these accommodation entries are bogus. Purchases are made, entered, the assessee says it's not like that, it is entered in the stock I have sold. So under such circumstances, whoever is the person who has said it's an account, I would like to cross-examine. How would I do it in this virtual process? The principle of national justice says you have to cross-examine, then the examination is chief, so many things come up. Such circumstances I have not yet come across.
Yes, sir. It is supposed to be like, see, in physical hearing when you cross-examine somebody, in virtual hearing it is supposed to be virtual cross-examination. That is the intended purpose of the scheme. So definitely, as you said, see, we have dealt with so many accommodation entries when Kolkata practice, somebody gave statement, somebody made addition here. But what is visualized is that whatever physically is done, it will be done virtually. Sitting at the ease of your home or office, you can do all these things which you earlier you have to go make time, make your schedule to income tax offices and attend, wait. So see, it is not that officers who want, some people may be there, but majority of time somebody else may be sitting and the discussion must be going on for long and you have to wait outside for getting a hearing opportunity. So now with this, that they want to cut down all these kind of inconveniences to the taxpayers and tax practitioners. That has been the motive. Yes, there are problems which will be improved upon. Again I said, if the majority of population in country feels that this policy of government is not correct, government has to go back on that. But there has to be a real reason behind the problem. So that's
Sure, sir. So on the rectification proceedings on 263 and 264 and all, still, I mean, the proposal is that it will go back to the National Faceless Assessment Centers. So when there is a review mechanism that is happening in the assessments, is there a requirement of, again, National E-Assessment Center doing that, or should the power come back to the jurisdictional officer and the flexibility has to be given to the assessees also to go and plead before the jurisdictional level? Because 154, 263, 264 again are at the National E-Assessment Center, sir. So, I mean, I'm asking the questions directly from the survey or this thing.
see, coming to 263, it is still with jurisdictional principal commissioners only.
Okay.
So it has not gone faceless yet and it will not go also. 154 and giving appeal effects is likely to go faceless because the entire interface between the tax department and taxpayer is bound to go faceless. See, 263, power of a principal commissioner, like in your question I saw that when there is review in it, why should there be 263?
Correct. Yeah, correct.
See, in review in it, there is no principal commissioner's involvement. See, the higher somebody goes, like he is 40 years experience in this field, I am only 20 years experience. Definitely his experience is more than mine. Similarly, as an additional commissioner, when I am approving after 20 years of experience, a person with 30 years experience can review, then my decision may be wrong. So when it is prejudicial to interest of revenue, similarly, you can go on 264, like the FAO, Faceless Assessment Council, may be blatantly wrong. The principal commissioner sitting there analyzing the facts, it is in fact, it is beneficial for somebody to go on 264 in the present setup because people may really appreciate the facts and pass a 264 orders, which was rarest of rare occasions earlier, but now it can be, people can pass it. Some dynamic officers who are ready to take a stand, they can do it.
Understood. Sir, in relation to the TP and DRP, yes, please.
Once the faceless assessment is over, all the records and all come back to the.
Sir,
jurisdictional
Yeah.
So any 154 AO only has to do, why it should go?
No, sir. I mean, there is a specific section of 157 which is giving effect to all this, national e-assessment. And the proposal is that 154 also will go to the national e-assessment. Currently, it is
As of now, it is with jurisdictional
Four or five are pending, I have to come.
Sir,
before it goes to faceless.
that is a loophole as of now, sir. So,
It's not going to go very soon, so.
You have time, sir.
What about GIT exemptions, it's still
No, it is gone.
gone, eh?
It's gone.
Sir, in relation to the DRP TP proceedings, sir, whether it will still be, with the TP office and international tax office here, or how is it going? DRP, they have clearly specified.
So the question is how soon it will go to faceless.
I know there is a 92 CA8 and there is a specific thing that TP has to be done faceless, but still last 2 years they have still been referred here, sir. So
See, the issue is that TP issues are to be dealt by technical units. That is what is visualized in scheme. So as I said earlier, there some TP experts may be hired in technical units. We have given a notification to extent. Government has created a setup that we will hire experts in the respective fields like lawyers, chartered accountants, TP experts. So in future what it is going to be is that these technical units where there are specialized TP officers or from the industry like tax practitioners, they will give that TP order and it will come to the FAO to pass the order.
understood.
So sooner or later it will TP orders and international taxation orders also may go, but as of now there is no such proposal.
Understood, sir.
DRP has to be there because
DRP,
it is.
we understood.
Please don't
Sir.
say it loudly.
Sir. Sir, based on their experience, sir, most of them have given a fair view on the technical understanding of the matters towards faceless, but administrative convenience, overall quality of assessment and transparency related, they have gone back to the physical or jurisdictional things, sir. I mean, we have given parameters in terms of technical understanding, administrative convenience, overall quality of assessment and transparency. So 3 out of 4 are towards physical and jurisdictional. This is the final result of the survey, sir. So we'll go back to the question, sir. One, regular question that most of them have been asking is on the voluminous details that have to be uploaded, especially in terms of, big cases where a specific restriction of 5 MB, 50 MB and 10 MB per attachment are being given, sir. So for our, especially in big cases where both of them would be experienced, where we have to file paper books, case law paper books, factual paper books and all the findings. The binders, once we scan everything and even if we upload, sir, even if we are breaking them into 10 different attachments, do you think that the jurisdictional AO will again print them all and go through all that? It's a very big tedious process. So how will that be taken when voluminous data is being asked also, sir? I mean, in the scrutiny proceedings, they have been asking the bank statements, entire ledger copies and the purchase and sales details as well. So all these things put together, how should we approach on the voluminous data?
This is a very genuine concern. See, CBDT has come down heavily upon officers who have asked irrelevant and voluminous data. They have been issued show cause notices to explain that why there is non-application of mind. As I told you earlier, under FAA scheme, we are supposed to get information without troubling the assessee or taxpayer, using our own internal databases. See, like we have 360-degree profiling of taxpayer. We have geospatial analysis, we have data analytics center, and using all these resources, we are supposed to get information which is available with us from the income tax return. We have access to MCA to download the annual reports. But problem is time. Last cycle what happened is that on August 13th, the scheme is declared and 31st December was supposed to be the deadline for us. So naturally it's a chaotic situation and people whatever they wanted they asked. But henceforth it will not happen because clear instructions have been given that you first exhaust all your internal databases, reach a conclusion, then only ask information. See, it may be surprise for you that I have seen my officers, whatever is uploaded they will again print and make voluminous binders and go through that.
But then, Mithilesh, then the environmental minister should be involved.
Sir.
Cutting so many trees for that paper.
Correct, sir.
That's why, see, they are involved, so that's why we are going for
Let
this.
me share your thought on this. National Faceless Appeal Center. Already all paper group details given to the CIT appeals.
Correct, sir.
Finally, this Faceless came. Now the Faceless is again asking me all these things. I wrote back saying that all these are available with the assessing officers, CIT appeals, kindly collect it from them. Why should I go about printing 800, 900 pages? So the assessee says, so why you want to fight the department? We will go and take some Xerox, scan it and send it. 898 pages were scanned and sent. And he said, no, we will not be able to get it from CIT appeals or I don't know what happened. So now that is where every commissioner, if you are going to make so many pages. In fact, in one of the replies, last line I said, sir, if you could kindly collect all this information, we would be saving 85,000 fees. I wrote in the last one. But then I hope now they will stop asking, or let the CIT appeals, the moment it has been posted, let them sample all the records to the
That is how it's supposed to
I
be.
don't know where it is. I don't know where to send, they say.
Correct,
least
sir.
If they don't know where to send, what can we do?
At least I was told that all the staff in the Commissioner Appeals Office were asked to scan all the relevant documents and upload in the ITBA.
Scan, let it
I-
now it has to be there only. Why give them the problem? That's why they are not
See, the issue,
scanning. 90 pages, 800 pages, 6 paper books you file and all that. It's not possible. I don't know, anyway. That's it.
no, that is a case with assessing officers also, sir. See, like 148, reopened assessments. The assessing officer must have issued 3 years back. You must have replied, and now that has been suddenly transferred to faceless assessment centers. So now all the information is there with JO. He is supposed to scan and upload everything into ITBA portal. But where is the time? Problem is there is no time with anybody. So earlier you guys go and sit before him, give paper. I don't have any hesitation to say 90% of cases, only when you explain we understand. But in a faceless environment, that flexibility is removed. All the papers which somebody sitting in Jaipur has to upload to an officer who is asking from Hyderabad, they have no interest. All are humans, right? So only when they are given a carrot and stick, they will do it. The human tendency. But there is time-bound mechanism which they are supposed to scan and upload. Department is working on that. Yes, I totally agree that this voluminous scanning and uploading of information should be avoided. That's why we are coming up with DIN facility and also digital signature facility. Once you write and you put a signature, it is as good as a signed document and upload it. Once you use a digital signature. And see, like many of the, even if your MCA website can provide electronic balance sheets and P&L, I don't think there is necessity for anybody to upload, scan and upload. This has to be across all the parties concerned, like Ministry of Corporate Affairs, whether a Department of Revenue which has customs and GST under it, or even sub-registrars. Once the data is digitized, this problem will not be there. And as I told, the endeavor of the department is to not to ask questions, but to have information and put a specific question on that. This is ultimate vision, but to walk to that point, we need to cross a bridge.
Sure, sir. So, there are quite a few technical glitches, as everybody would agree, in terms of non-compliances because of the technical grounds. If at all assessee was not able to upload, or if there are any such issues, there are cases where penalty notices and penalty is being levied on assessees. And in terms of situations where even orders are clear and penalty notices are still being levied are also there, sir. So in those situations, considering penalty units being separate and specific, do you think there will be an improvement, especially in terms of 271(1)B, BA, small penalties also, 10,000, whatever they are levying. So should we have, clearance about all this, again, something on amnesty or something for the next 2-3 years, first 2-3 years of Faceless, to clear off all these issues?
Yes, there have been directions to us. A standard operating procedure has been given to us that not to, where we should levy such non-compliance penalties. See, they said that for first notice there is no response. So normally tendency is that unless a penalty notice is issued, there will be no further complaint from the taxpayer. In fact, I was also an additional commissioner in that such setup. So we generally give such notices to enforce complaints. The problem is when these penalties will not be with the officer who actually issued that penalty notice. It will go to somebody else.
Understood.
So that's why there is a direction that now that even at any point of time before completion of assessment, even there is a single complaint from the taxpayer, non-compliance penalties should not be levied. They said right now that where ex parte assessments are made and to penalty notice also there is no response, there you can levy penalty. So there has been improvement in that, and in fact personally I am dropping all such, I have 2 units. In all those cases where there is complaints or even single complaints or there is any genuine reason shown by SSC, we are dropping all such penalties.
Okay, sir.
Dinesh, are you trying to say that the penalty officer and the assessment officer in the Faceless scheme are
Different.
Different, sir.
So when I am replying to a penalty, can I say this, all these replies have already been given during the assessment proceedings? So kindly take a pragmatic view of the whole thing, or do I file all those replies again?
Actually, we are filing them as annexures again, sir.
Oh, again?
So, yeah.
I don't, I have not made an attempt.
So whenever that penalty,
Normally, if both are the same, it would be a better comprehensive.
that's what I'm saying, sir. It should have been the same, but they have a separate penalty unit. Yeah.
Correct. So, suppose if the assessment additions have been made, and I go and file the penalty replies, let us say chance he cancels the penalty, so my quantum appeal gets automatically allowed.
Correct, sir. But in terms of,
Concentrate on penalty.
See, once a quantum appeal is pending, penalty is kept in abeyance.
Yes, sir, but let me tell you, I do agree, in some cases what has happened is, somebody interpreted that period of limitation at a wrongly, C80 appeals order pass, we go to the tribunal, you have to wait till the tribunal order, they say nothing doing, it goes, then we give a detailed explanation, penalty is dropped. Now in the tribunal, I am saying once the penalty is dropped, how does the quantum survive? That is the thing.
See, as we discussing about the penalty, because the penalty hub is created, all the cases of 71(1)(c), wherever the SSCs have filed under the Vivad Se Vishwas scheme, those notices were again issued by the penalty hub, which are of course supposed to be dropped.
No, but they
So
know
now,
that you have filed BSVS, now we don't know.
sir, now the point is all these notices were initiated by the assessing officer, then transferred to the penalty hub. Now the assessing officer, I'm sure he knows that whether the case is before the principal commissioner under the scheme or not. I have got notices where Form 5 is also issued. No, that's what I'm saying, sir.
so they have a 360-degree view, sir. So in ITPS,
sir.
they're able to watch everything.
No, the point is, no, sir, the penalty hub, if they have issued notice on a standalone basis, I agree. The assessing officer who has given report to the principal commissioner for the scheme, for the same assessment year, was asked to issue a notice, then transfer it to penalty hub, probably for a better control of how many cases pending, where are they pending. But again, at the end of the day, they are supposed to be dropped. Once Form 5 is issued.
Form 5 is issued, we are dropping it. All such penalties are dropped.
But the problem is, I don't have cases before you are.
So
I think we should shift our base, sir,
No, no.
so that you will get cases to
No, no,
cover.
the issue is that seniors like you have grilled us so much in ITAT. We are doing, but unfortunately those routes are not for Hyderabad, they are for some other case. It depends on the, like in smaller places, they may not have gone through so many processes involved. So it takes time. So suppose your case must have gone to somewhere Guwahati. You won't even know that your case is being assessed in Guwahati. He might not know all these things. So that's why, in fact, we are now working, there is a committee. In fact, yesterday I gave a suggestion that there should be a technical unit at every CCIT level who should handhold for at least couple of years the officers who are passing. There should be legacy, institutional memory transferred to the officers. There should be geographical indicative knowledge, because like the person sitting in Jammu and Kashmir cannot know what is happening in Hyderabad, what is a business environment in Hyderabad. So there should be these kind of improvements in our approach. So we are working on that.
No, but Jammu and Kashmir no faceless, no? Because Act says other than Jammu and Kashmir.
Just give an example.
I'm just giving, okay, I will redraft it as Guwahati.
Sir, in terms of limited scrutiny and full scrutiny, sir, we have seen that, most of the faceless questionnaires that have been issued in the first round of assessments, most of them have been around 36 questions, 40 questions and all. In the physical interaction, we used to get to know that it is a limited scrutiny and these are the 1-2 points that we have to submit or whatever. But in a full-fledged scrutiny, or where a limited scrutiny is being converted to a full-fledged scrutiny, do you think that there should be an intimation that has to be given specifically that these are the reasons why we are converting you to a full-fledged scrutiny, or this is the first leg of limited scrutiny and then we are converting you to a full-fledged scrutiny?
Then you can also put one more question to them. Kindly give us the SAP whether the additional commissioner's permission has been taken. Because when you are converting a limited scrutiny into a full scrutiny, the additional commissioner's permission should be taken.
I think they will take it, sir, normally.
No,
I
but
haven't.
they will take it. Ask for the SAP.
Now to make it clear, now there is no concept of converting a limited scrutiny to complete scrutiny.
Okay, sir.
That has been done away with. Now system itself segregates to limited and complete scrutiny.
Okay, sir.
Limited scrutiny, as you know, it is specific to the specific issue. When it comes to complete scrutiny, as you rightly said, when the initial questionnaires came, the officers didn't have any clear idea what to ask. Like across the table, we never used to issue even a 142-1 questionnaire. We used to write an order sheet and say 5 issues are there. This is the issue, please submit detail. Now in a faceless era, the officer doesn't know what is the business of the assessee. So he cannot zero in upon what are the core issues.
Correct.
There are caste reasons. And that's why on 4th January, a full bench of CBDT, full board has convened a meeting and conveyed the minutes that even in complete scrutiny cases, you restrict as far as possible to the caste reasons. That's why if you have seen 153 notices of 2021, they have specified the caste reasons.
Understood.
And any other issue emanating from your return of income other than caste reasons, and also any third party information coming from some other agency like economic intelligence agency or some other agency, you have to incorporate all these things. So even in complete scrutiny cases, roving inquiries cannot be made. It has to be confined to the issues identified for the scrutiny. Then the issue should emanate from your return of income. And also, if there is any external agency which is giving information, it should be restricted to that. A clear directions have been given to all field formations that no roving inquiries, no 40-page questionnaires.
Okay, sir. Sir, based on the recent 148 or 147 amendments, do you think it should be restricted to the issues which were not duly considered either by the assessment unit or review unit under the faceless assessment scheme, the reopening part, I mean?
He has enormous knowledge on that issue.
148, Devidas sir will write a book very soon.
He can write a book, maybe not one book, maybe 2 books. So, but
sir,
from my perspective, what we deal, because they have grilled us in tribunal, including himself, that why when already an issue is already considered in assessment, again, yes, once you consider an assessment and a decision is taken at assessment level, the officer has no right to revisit. But the question is that, I can always say OSHA International Case Law where they said if there is no due diligence applied by the, or it is not even seen by the assessing officer, non-application of mind by the faceless assessing officer, always there is a possibility that you can revisit such an issue which is not have been examined in the regular assessment.
Understood, sir.
So this is our.
But the new provisions 148 says that he can do anything. Once the
Anything,
assessment
yes.
is reopened,
Yes.
he can go into all other issues, notwithstanding what has been stated in the reasons.
I think about 50
148
lakhs, everything is
Yes,
covered.
yes. That now they have amended.
So
the
provision.
Yes.
So
But the
50
only thing is, new provision, whether it comes into effect from now, the law as it stands is, the law on 1/4/2021 will apply for 21-22. Now they have been issuing some 143 notice, we are contending that's a procedural section, you should have followed the norms and all that. High Court has also admitted the thing and they have stalled the
So
whole
the
issue.
extension is only for the year prior to 1/4/2021
Whatever it
in
is.
any case.
So now that is
so-
only a temporary reprieve for the SSC. Suppose ultimately it comes, the law prevailing on 1/4/2021 should govern the assessment year 2021, we are out.
Okay.
Both are applicable.
So it's sub judice now, we cannot prejudice it.
Yes, no, but whatever, if they hold, I said, if they hold. Anyway, that is the issue which is pending.
Sir, coming to GAR, this is my personal doubt, sir. Is there any GAR committee that is formed and it is implemented anything even in the earlier erstwhile provisions, and especially in 144BA now, when they are talking about this impermissible anti-avoidance agreements, 144BA in relation to the reference of by an AO to a PCIT for declaration under GAR, do you think that something has been achieved in GAR or will it be done? Because that panel of commissioners, that 3 crore amount or whatever has been specified, we have not come across practically that being implemented, sir. So,
See, in our experience also, I don't
There's
think
been nothing.
there has been nothing. If any such issue emanates, the SOP given to us is that we have to refer it to technical units. If we feel that any agreement is in violation of GAR, so it has to be referred to technical unit. There, they will, across the country, they will take a uniform stand on such issues. They may come up in future.
Mithilesh, GAR issues, you must say it in whisper. Don't say it anything loudly, I'm telling you.
Sir, in Hyderabad, I think there are 15 assessment units and 3 verification and 3 review units, sir. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we just wanted to understand how the Hyderabad ecosystem is currently. Because in that notification, it is very, very lengthy, so we couldn't understand. So if you can throw some light, because you are the right person to talk on the administrative part on the reassessment, I mean, regional e-assessment centers.
See, Hyderabad has 4, Hyderabad city I'm talking about,
Yes.
it has 4 principal commissioners. Each principal commissioner has 4 units under them. So totally 16 units in Hyderabad. Then we have in Vizag another 4 units.
Yes.
So there are 20 units. And we have verification, one principal commissioner verification unit in Hyderabad and one in Guntur. So we have 3 verification units under each of them.
Understood.
And we have a review unit. We have 4 review units in Hyderabad. One principal commissioner review for entire AP and Telangana. So this is
Technical units are the only things which are yet to
technical
form.
unit is not available. It is only there in 4 metros.
Okay,
That is what our recommendation is, that you create for every principal CC chart so that
understood,
the officers in this region can be guided effectively.
understood, sir. Any
But,
other questions?
What sort
Yeah,
of
yeah,
cases are coming from outside to your?
I can't remember the names.
All cases other than SETCH and international tax.
See, that is one more issue which we are grappling with. Like now, with the higher wisdom, they want to give equal number of cases to all officers, and the proportion of cases like trust, companies, firms, individuals, they also are given equally. The problem we are facing is that, that's what I have just given a lengthy recommendation. Typically, if somebody is newly joined or newly promoted as income tax officer or as assistant commissioner, he will take some time to understand. Earlier, we had corporate, I was heading a corporate charge. So, he used to come, and since we know the corporate issues, directly go into zero down upon the issue. But somebody who doesn't have corporate exposure, he needs time to study corporate assessments, Companies Act, what bearing has Companies Act on Income Tax Act. Similarly, firms, trusts, what is the bearing of a society registration on the income of the society. So it takes time. When there are specialized circles or wards to deal with, first couple of months they take to understand, and afterwards they will roll out the assessments. But if the same officer has to study 6 different types of businesses or entities, it will take 6 times more time for him to understand and pass an order. That is a practical issue we are grappling with now.
Any other questions from the audience or anyone?
No, as of now, what is that? It is random allocation. So we are trying to suggest to government that you utilize the expertise of the officers, and wherever there is expertise, say somebody is expert in company cases, like what we have earlier used to have corporate charges. So, and similarly, even in companies, somebody is an expert in deductions. Yeah, somebody is expert in media companies. Somebody is expert in manufacturing companies. So we are trying to pull in those expertise and give a, that is what technical units are supposed to do. Yeah. So, yeah. So,
No, it's not as if all pharmaceutical companies will be allotted to one.
no. As of now, it is
Comparison
not.
of results.
No.
Nothing like that.
But in technical units, yes, they have designated, like Delhi region will handle certain type of issues. Mumbai region will handle, like Chennai region will handle, like all TDS, all this will go to Chennai. All share capital, everything will go to Kolkata. So, yeah, because of past experience is there.
Individuals and companies.
Yes. Now, see, I have cases where my officers have cases of all categories. We have trust cases, we have corporate cases, we have individual cases, HUF, AOP, BOP, all. Yes. That's what, it takes time for an officer to understand. Earlier, because of the institutional memory, people used to roll out assessments faster. Now, they can't read it. It is humanly not possible for somebody to read and understand everything. That is why they give 40-page questionnaire.
Sir, I have a closing question on behalf of the next generation. So whenever tech is 80%, now I'm seeing that tax tech is evolving, if you look at how it is going on. And I believe government also want to simplify the procedure to such an extent that the entire bracket of tax compliance increases. Only more people will be open to comply when it is easy. So if you're looking these two into perspective, and also I believe technology is not just a platform, it is an accelerator. If you look at what Swiggy has done, the number of people buying food has increased 20x. It's not just an alternative, it's an accelerator. So now we bring all of the three together, future chartered accountants who want to get into tax practice. So what do you think they should be thinking into? Because I believe that the role of tax practitioners would be extremely limited. And I don't think even if the survey says 99% are not comfortable, government is going forward, there is no looking back. I think that's pretty straightforward. So for people who want to get into this tax practice, what is your one piece of advice?
It's not Indian government alone. The entire world is moving to technology. So what we foresee is 50% of workforce will be working in technology.
Yes,
plus 50% will be using that technology. That is going to be the scenario everywhere. So you can't take out technology from any profession. Forget about tax, including medical profession. Today, he has so many big medical corporates with him. Artificial intelligence is going to come into every area of profession, including medical, tax practitioners, everybody. We are using artificial intelligence. Our entire data analytics is based on artificial intelligence. Now, if I have to process 2 crore pieces of information, we have a capacity to process that 2 crore information in 1 hour. That is a robust IT platform which is built by Income Tax Department. So invariably, tomorrow, that's what. If you have to give a submission, you have to digitally sign. To simple start with Unless you know how to do a digital signature, you cannot submit anything to tax officer.
Yes, sir. I'm very much in favor of technology, and I have all the pieces. My wife is a doctor, my cousins are from IIT, and I'm a startup founder. So my only question being, does it make sense for somebody to pursue a career in taxation 5 years, 10 years down the lane, the way they are having opportunities now? Would it still be the same, or that's the whole question? Yeah.
He should say.
Opportunities are in plenty. You should be computer savvy. You should have communication skills. And this is the right time for the youngsters to get into it. Because you did not have the opportunity of faceful assessments. Now it is faceless. So you know where you stand. It will be really educative. Let me tell you, one of the most interesting subjects is the taxation subject. Don't think it is complicated. Go on reading. And 1 time writing is equal to 10 time reading. Whatever you have read, computerized, just make notes on your own, not necessarily in a computer typing or anything. It will definitely, let me tell you, the field is wide open, it is very good, and you have to just interact, find out the issues, take it as a challenge. If the faceless assessment says you are wrong, it's not the end. You have a right of appeal, try to convince them, and there are modes of rights of further appeal, and you are the best judge, let me tell you. Absolutely no problem. If any of you have any inhibitions, please forget about it. Put your right foot forward and your right hand into the computer and start off. No problem.
Sir, one last question, sir. On the tribunal, faceless tribunal that is being proposed, personally, I feel it's the last opportunity of being heard for anybody. So whether that, if that is implemented, if at all, I think they have come out with a section also, section 255 and all. But the point that we want to hear from you as a legend of tribunal, so please give your views on that particular thing, sir.
But let me tell you, the finance minister has categorically stated it will come. When we met the law minister, he said it will not come. It is only the e-filing system. It's only the e-filing system that is going to come. But then the finance minister is adamant it will also come. But how far it will be successful, I cannot say. Like the income tax, we have already about 40 tribunals all over the country. So the question of faceless, faceful, how it is, all these issues are bound to be there. And as far as tribunals are concerned, many issues are involved. So a physical hearing would be a must. We cannot thrash out some. Now, for example, why not make the high courts also like that? Why not make the Supreme Court also? The Supreme Court in recent judgments have come out. Physical hearing is a must to get into the lawful interpretations of statutes, etc. So therefore, it seems to me, my personal view, the question of tribunal going faceless in the near future is quite a remote. I don't think it will be possible. But the finance minister is very adamant on this issue when somebody approached. So this, how far is this faceless secret, sir? Suppose I file my returns and make a submission, my tax audit report, my name comes there. How far is it so secret about it? Devdas, chartered accountant, and my full address is there, and I also give my cell number, if not available, landline number, everything in the tax audit report.
They know you, sir. You don't know them.
No, it's not that. How far is it so secretive for somebody to know that this case has come from Hyderabad? That's what I'm trying to say.
Probably a follow-up question. Initially, I don't know whether it is true or not. I heard, probably a hearsay, that when this kind of information is transferred to the assessment unit, so it should be masked, so that even the assessing officer should not know who is.
So much.
What plant is this, money plant?
Because under faceless you are supposed to pay more tax.
Any closing remarks that you want to give? Anything that you want to say, sir? Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. It's been a great session. Thank you, one and all. One last photo with the team, sir, please.
Thank you all for the patient hearing.